What if a gym was also a temple? What if a workout was a form of prayer, a story told not with words, but with muscle and sweat and rhythm? And what if the weights you lifted were not just cold, dead iron, but the symbolic heft of history, of mythology, of a warrior's soul, forged in the crucible of a nation's epic memory? You'd probably say that sounds like something out of a fantasy novel. But what if I told you a place like this is not only real, but has existed for centuries, a living, breathing tradition that UNESCO has recognized as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity? Before we step inside this world, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. It helps us bring forgotten stories like this back to life. Welcome then to the Zurkhaneh. In Persian, the name is deceptively simple. Zur means strength, and Khaneh means house, the house of strength. But as we're about to discover, that simple name belies a universe of staggering complexity and profound beauty. It's an institution that weaves together martial arts, calisthenics, music, literature, and a deep, abiding spirituality into a single, seamless tapestry. This is not just about building a stronger body, it's about forging a complete human being, a Pahlevan, a hero. So, step inside. But be careful as you enter. The door is intentionally low, forcing every person, no matter their station in life, to bow their head in a gesture of humility. That single architectural detail is our first clue. It tells us that what happens in this space is more than mere exercise. It's a ritual. The air inside is thick with the scent of history, perhaps the hint of sweat, and something else, something reverent. Your eyes are drawn downward into an octagonal or circular pit in the center of the room, the goud. This sunken arena is sacred ground, and perched above it all, on a decorated seat called the Sardam, sits a figure who is not a coach, not a trainer, but something more. He is the morshed, the guide, the master. In his hands is a drum, a zarb, and on his lips are verses of ancient poetry. He strikes the drum, a steady, primal rhythm that seems to echo the heartbeat of the earth itself, and begins to chant. And as his voice fills the domed space, men, barefoot and bare-chested, wearing only embroidered leather breeches, descend into the goud. They kiss the earth before they begin, a sign of respect for the sacred space. What are we witnessing here? Is it a sport, a religious ceremony, a history lesson? The answer, as we'll soon unravel, is all of the above and so much more. This is the mystery of the Zurkhaneh, how a physical regimen designed to train ancient Persian warriors for battle evolved into a spiritual practice that aims to conquer the self. We're about to journey through its layers, from the intricate movements and their symbolic meanings to the epic poems that provide its soundtrack and the profound ethical code that governs the life of every participant. This is not the story of a workout. It's the story of a worldview, a complete system for living a life of strength, honor, and humility. It's an exploration of what it means to be a hero, not just on the battlefield, but in the quiet arena of one's own soul. So listen closely to the beat of the drum. It's calling us deeper into the heart of the house of strength. The first thing that strikes you, the first layer of this mystery we must peel back, is the sheer physicality of it all. This is, after all, a house of strength. And the strength being built here is formidable, forged with tools that look like they belong in a museum of ancient warfare. Forget dumbbells and kettlebells. Here, the instruments of power have names and histories. Look at those men in the goud. They're lifting what appear to be two massive wooden shields, the sang. They lie on their backs, pressing these heavy boards, sometimes weighing up to 70 kilograms each, alternating one arm, then the other, in a rhythmic motion that mimics the use of a shield in hand-to-hand combat. But even here, in this raw display of power, symbolism is everywhere. Some say the sang represent the shields of ancient warriors, a direct link to the Zurkhaneh's origins as a training ground for battle. Others believe they have an Islamic symbolism relating to the pilgrimage to Mecca and the casting of stones against one's own ego. Think about that for a moment. Every repetition is not just a muscular contraction, it's an act of spiritual purification. The weight being lifted is not just wood, it's the weight of the self, the ego, being pushed away again and again. Then there are the mill, enormous wooden clubs that resemble medieval maces. An athlete, the miandar, or owner of the center, steps forward to lead the exercise. He and the others hoist these clubs, which can weigh anywhere from 10 to 30 kilograms or more, onto their shoulders and begin to swing them in complex flowing patterns. The movement is a dance of power, building immense upper body, grip, and core strength. It's easy to see how this directly translates to wielding a heavy mace or sword on the battlefield. The lighter mill are used for stamina, swung in sets of hundreds, while the heavier ones are for raw power. The coordination required is immense, a seamless blend of strength and grace, all performed in unison, following the miandar, who in turn follows the rhythmic drumming of the morshed. And then there's the kabbadeh, a massive iron bow, strung not with a cord but with a heavy chain and metal rings. An athlete grips this formidable object, kisses it as a sign of respect, and then raises it above his head. He shakes it in time with the drum, the chains rattling like a battle cry. The exercise is a full-body workout, developing strength in the shoulders, back, and arms, simulating the drawing of a powerful war bow. These are not isolated exercises in the way you might think of a modern gym routine. They are part of a continuous, flowing ritual. The athletes move from one discipline to the next, from push-ups on a special board called the Shina to the whirling and spinning of Chark Zadan, a dizzying display of balance and agility inspired by Sufi whirling dervishes. Every movement has a purpose, a history, a meaning. The entire session is a meticulously structured sequence, a physical narrative. It begins with warm-ups and stretching, progresses through the main strength-building exercises with the sang, mill, and kabbadeh, and traditionally climaxes with the ultimate test of strength and skill, wrestling, or koshti Pahlevan. This is the core of the practice, the reason for all the other training. For centuries, the Zurkhaneh was, first and foremost, where the greatest wrestlers of the land were made. This intricate system of athletics, known as Varzesh-e-Bastani, or ancient sport, was designed with a single goal in mind: to prepare a warrior's body for any eventuality on the battlefield. The strength, the stamina, the coordination, the agility, it all came together in the wrestling pit. So, on one level, the mystery seemed solved. The Zurkhaneh is an ancient training system, a highly sophisticated and symbolic gymnasium for creating fighters. But this explanation feels incomplete. Why the poetry? Why the drumming? Why the emphasis on humility and purity of heart? The purely physical layer, as impressive as it is, doesn't account for the soul of the place. It's clear that the strength in the house of strength refers to something more than just muscle. We've seen how they train. Now we must ask why they train this way. To find the answer, we have to look away from the straining muscles in the god and turn our attention back to the man sitting high above them on the sardam, the morshed, the guide. For it is in his voice, in the stories he tells and the rhythm he keeps, that the true heart of the Zurkhaneh begins to beat. As we shift our focus from the raw physical power in the gaud to the elevated platform of the sardam, we begin to unravel the next, deeper layer of the Zurkhaneh. The man seated there, the morshed, is far more than a timekeeper or a musical accompanist. He is the spiritual leader, the historian, the poet, and the soul of the entire ceremony. The word morshed itself means guide or master, a term borrowed directly from the lexicon of Sufism, the mystical branch of Islam. This linguistic link is our first major clue to the spiritual dimensions of the practice. The morshed is not just leading a workout, he is guiding a spiritual exercise. His primary instruments are the zarb, a goblet drum made of clay and animal skin, and a bell, the zang. The zarb's skin must often be warmed by a small heater to achieve the right tension and tone, a ritual in itself. The beat of the drum is the ceaseless pulse of the Zurkhaneh, dictating the pace and rhythm of every movement, from the slow, powerful presses of the sang to the rapid, dizzying spins of the chark. The bell is used to mark transitions between exercises and, importantly, to announce the arrival of a respected guest or a senior athlete, reinforcing the community's ingrained code of courtesy and respect for seniority. But the morshed's most powerful instrument is his voice. He doesn't just play the drum, he chants. And what he chants is the key to everything. He recites epic poems, moral tales, and Gnostic verses. Most importantly, he draws from the Shahnameh, the Book of Kings. Written by the poet Ferdowsi over 1,000 years ago, the Shahnameh is the national epic of Persia, a monumental work of some 60,000 couplets that recounts the mythical and historical past of the nation. It is a book of heroes, of legendary Pahlevans like Rostam, who is depicted as the mightiest of Iranian warriors, a symbol of strength, chivalry, and national pride. As the morshed's voice rings out, telling the tales of Rostam's battles, his trials, and his unwavering sense of honor, the athletes in the Gaud are no longer just men exercising. They are participants in a living drama. Their rhythmic movements become a form of physical storytelling. When they swing the heavy mill, they are not just building their shoulders. They are embodying the strength of Rostam wielding his mighty mace. When they press the sang, they are reenacting the defense of their homeland. The workout is transformed into a ritual of remembrance. The morshed's recitations are meant to strengthen the athletes' souls, to provide them with moral guidance, and to connect them to a lineage of heroism that stretches back into the mists of mythology. He is, in effect, creating the soundtrack for their transformation. The music and poetry elevate the physical exertion into a higher plane of meaning. The morshed must be a man of immense skill and knowledge. He needs to be an experienced athlete himself, well-versed in the history and traditions of the sport. He must be a master of rhythm and a vocalist, but also a learned man, capable of understanding and interpreting the deep philosophical and ethical messages embedded in the poetry. His role extends beyond the walls of the Zurkhaneh. He is a community leader, expected to be conversant with religious and social issues and to serve as a moral compass. This fusion of physical training with epic literature and moral instruction is what sets the Zurkhaneh apart from any other athletic tradition on earth. It reveals a worldview in which the body and the soul are not separate entities to be trained in isolation. Here, they are inextricably linked. To strengthen one is to strengthen the other. The epic tales of the Shahnameh provide the ethical framework, the ideal of the Pahlevan that every athlete strives to emulate. We now understand that the strength being built in this house is not just physical prowess. It is also the strength of character, the strength of spirit, the strength that comes from knowing your place in a long and noble story. But what exactly is that ideal? What is the code of conduct that turns a strong man into a true Pahlevan? To answer that, we must now delve into the ethical heart of the Zurkhaneh, a philosophy of chivalry known as Javanmardi. Having understood the deep connection between the physical act and the epic narrative, we now arrive at the moral core of the Zurkhaneh, the very ethos that animates the entire practice. This is the code of Javanmardi, a Persian term that is difficult to translate with a single word. It has been rendered as chivalry, magnanimity, and spiritual manliness, but it encompasses all of these and more. Javanmardi is the philosophical foundation of what it means to be a Pahlevan, a hero. It dictates that physical strength is meaningless, even dangerous, unless it is paired with moral virtue. This is the great reveal, the central mystery solved. The house of strength is ultimately designed to be a house of character. The principles of Javanmardi are a constellation of virtues. They include generosity, selflessness, humility, bravery, honesty, hospitality, justice, and courage. An athlete in the Zurkhaneh is taught that building a powerful body does not give him the right to be a bully or to oppress others. On the contrary, his strength obligates him to protect the weak, to stand up for the helpless, and to serve his community. This code is exemplified by a verse recited at many gatherings. Learn modesty if you desire knowledge. A highland would never be irrigated by a river. Strength, like knowledge, must be tempered with humility to be truly fruitful. This ethical system fuses pre-Islamic Persian traditions with the spiritual values of Shia Islam and Sufism. Ancient Zoroastrians believed that physical and mental development could enhance spirituality. After the advent of Islam, these ideals were absorbed and enriched. The figure of Imam Ali, the cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad, became the ultimate exemplar of the Javanmard. He is seen as the first Pahlevan, a perfect embodiment of bravery, chivalry, and unwavering devotion to justice. His image hangs in nearly every Zurkhaneh in Iran, and stories of his chivalrous deeds serve as a constant guide for the athletes. The pursuit of becoming a Pahlevan is a lifelong journey. It requires not only mastering the demanding physical skills of the Zurkhaneh, but also progressing through moral and ethical stages of Gnosticism. A true Pahlevan is expected to be pure, truthful, and good-tempered first, and only then strong in body. The highest rank, Jahan Pahlevan or World Hero, a title bestowed upon legendary figures like Rostam from the Shahnameh, signifies the pinnacle of both physical and moral excellence. This ethical code is not just a theoretical ideal, it is woven into the very fabric of the Zurkhaneh's social function. Traditionally, these institutions demanded no payment from athletes. Instead, they were supported by public donations and, in turn, served the community. A classic example is the casting of flowers ceremony, where athletes would hold wrestling matches and other displays of strength to raise funds for the poor and needy, such as widows and their families. The Zurkhaneh, therefore, acted as a vital social hub, a place where men from any social class or religion could join, and a force for civic good. It provided protection for neighborhoods and fostered a spirit of solidarity. The Javanmardi Code creates a brotherhood. The athletes are not competitors in the modern sense, but brothers on a shared path of self-improvement. They support and learn from one another, with respect for seniority being a paramount virtue. The newest members are positioned in the Gaud directly opposite the morshed, so they can best see and learn from his guidance and the example of the more senior athletes. We can now see the complete picture taking shape. The physical exercises are the tools. The epic poetry is the inspiration, and Javanmardi is the blueprint. It is the operating system that governs how the strength is to be used, how the inspiration is to be applied in the world. But there is one final layer to explore, the most esoteric and perhaps the most profound. It lies in the very architecture of the space and in the most mystical of its movements. We must now ask not just about the strength of the body or the character, but about the strength of the soul and its connection to the cosmos. This is the mystical heart of the Zurkhaneh. We have journeyed from the body to the mind, from physical exertion to ethical aspiration. Now, we must take the final step into the spiritual heart of the Zurkhaneh, where the practice transcends sport and becomes a mystical discipline. This is where the House of Strength reveals its ultimate purpose, to be a place for the soul to find its own power, its own center in a spinning universe. The clues to this mystical dimension have been hiding in plain sight all along, embedded in the architecture, the rituals, and the movements. Let's start with the building itself. The traditional Zurkhaneh is a domed structure, often built partially below street level. This sunken design helps maintain a constant temperature for the perspiring athletes, but it also carries a deeper significance, resembling ancient Mithraic temples which were often cave-like and subterranean. The connection to Mithraism, a pre-Islamic Persian religion, is a recurring theme, suggesting roots that stretch deep into Iran's ancient past. The architecture of the Zurkhaneh is a microcosm of the cosmos. The single opening in the dome can be seen as representing the sun, the source of light and life. The circular or octagonal Gaud at the center is the earth, the stage of human existence. The most crucial architectural feature is the precise alignment of the center point of the Gaud with the exact center of the dome above it. This creates a powerful vertical axis, a symbolic connection between the terrestrial and the celestial, between the human and the divine. The space itself is designed to focus the mind and spirit inward and upward. The very act of entering the gaud is a sacred ritual. As we've seen, athletes kiss the ground, a gesture of humility and respect for the earth. This space is considered sacred, and tradition dictates that only those who are ritually pure should enter. This is not just a gym floor, it is a prayer circle, an arena for spiritual battle. This spiritual battle is waged against the greatest opponent any Pahlevan will ever face, the self, or in Sufi terms, the nafs, the ego. The entire philosophy of the Zurkhaneh can be seen as a method for taming the ego. The humility instilled by the low door, the respect for seniority, the service to the community, all are designed to chip away at pride and arrogance. The physical exertion itself becomes a form of meditation, a way to exhaust the body and quiet the chattering mind, allowing for a deeper spiritual connection. The link to Sufism, the mystical tradition of Islam, is explicit and profound. Many of the terms used in the Zurkhaneh morshed, master, pishkishvat leader, Taj crown, are borrowed directly from Sufi orders. The ethical ideals of Javan Mahdi, with their emphasis on purity of heart, selflessness, and service, are perfectly aligned with Sufi philosophy. Perhaps the most dramatic and visually stunning expression of this mystical connection is the exercise known as chark zadan, the whirling. Athletes take turns spinning rapidly in the center of the gaud, their arms outstretched, in a movement clearly inspired by the famous whirling of the Mevlevi Sufi order, the whirling dervishes. For the Sufis, this whirling is a profound spiritual practice. It is a meditation in motion, a way of abandoning the ego and achieving a trance-like state of union with the divine. The spinning represents the revolution of the planets around the sun and, on a deeper level, the soul's orbit around the magnetic pole of God's love. By performing the chark, the athletes of the Zurkhaneh are doing more than developing balance and agility. They are participating in a cosmic dance, physically enacting the search for spiritual ecstasy and the dissolution of the self into a greater whole. Here, then, is the final reveal. The Zurkhaneh is a complete system for human development, physical, ethical, and spiritual, all operating simultaneously. The architecture creates a sacred space. The rituals instill humility and respect. The physical exercises build a powerful body, symbolically linked to the weapons and deeds of heroes. The epic poetry provides a moral and mythological framework. The code of Javan Mahdi guides the athlete's conduct in the world, and the mystical practices, like the chark, offer a path towards spiritual transcendence. The House of Strength is, in the end, a house of transformation. It is a place where men enter to build muscle and leave having forged a soul. It is an answer to an ancient question. How does one live a life of meaning, a life of heroism? The Zurkhaneh's answer is that you do it by integrating all parts of yourself, body, mind, and spirit, and dedicating your strength to the service of others, all while listening to the rhythm of a timeless story. Having journeyed through the body, the story, the code, and the soul of the Zurkhaneh, we emerge with a picture of a tradition that is breathtakingly holistic. It is a practice where the physical is never separated from the spiritual, where ethics are the foundation of strength, and where every movement is imbued with layers of meaning. But in a world of high-tech gyms, individualized workout apps, and globalized sports entertainment, what is the place of such an ancient and ritualistic tradition? How does the House of Strength endure in the 21st century? The story of the modern Zurkhaneh is one of both challenge and resilience. During the 19th century, under the Qajar king Nasser al-Din Shah, the sport reached a peak of popularity, with many new Zurkhanehs being built and the Shah himself awarding the title of Pahlevan of Iran. However, with the rise of Western influence and the modernization of Iran in the 20th century, the Zurkhaneh began to face competition from modern sports like football and wrestling. The traditional institution was sometimes seen as archaic, a relic of a bygone era. Yet, it never disappeared. Its roots were too deep in the cultural soil of the nation. After the Iranian Revolution of 1979, there was a renewed emphasis on the Islamic and national character of the institution, and efforts were made to popularize it once again. The Zurkhaneh's unique fusion of Shia Islamic values and ancient Persian identity allowed it to find a place in the new social landscape. Today, there are hundreds of Zurkhanehs operating across Iran, each with strong ties to its local community. The tradition is alive, though it continues to evolve. Discussions are ongoing about how to adapt the practice to appeal to younger generations, perhaps by making the rituals more upbeat or distributing leadership roles more widely, while still preserving the core principles that give the Zurkhaneh its power. The global recognition of the practice has also played a crucial role in its preservation. In 2010, UNESCO officially inscribed the Pahlevan and Zurkhaneh rituals on the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. This designation acknowledged the Zurkhaneh as a priceless treasure of human culture, a complete system of values and practices that enriches the world. This international recognition has sparked a resurgence of interest in the sport, both inside and outside of Iran. An international Zurkhaneh Sport Federation, IZSF, was established to govern and promote the sport globally, and it has gained members in dozens of countries across 5 continents. The sport is gaining popularity in neighboring countries with shared cultural histories, like Iraq and Afghanistan, and has even been showcased in international events. There have been cultural disputes, such as when Azerbaijan registered the culture of Zurkhaneh as its own intangible heritage in 2022, prompting a response from Iran, which had registered the rituals in its name back in 2010, highlighting the deep cultural significance and sense of ownership the tradition holds. But what can we, as individuals living in a very different world, learn from the House of Strength? Perhaps the most important lesson is its profound counter-narrative to our modern, often fragmented approach to well-being. We are taught to separate our lives into boxes. We go to the gym for our bodies, to the library for our minds, to a place of worship for our souls, and to volunteer for our community. The Zurkhaneh proposes a radical yet ancient idea that these are not separate pursuits. It teaches that true strength, resilience, integrity, and purpose comes from their integration. It reminds us that physical fitness can be a form of meditation and self-expression, not just a utilitarian chore. It suggests that our workouts can be enriched by art, by story, and by a connection to something larger than ourselves. It insists that the ultimate test of our strength is not how much we can lift, but how we lift up others. The Pahlevan's journey from raw strength to chivalrous heroism is a timeless metaphor for human development. It is a path that asks us to cultivate our bodies, enrich our minds with the great stories of humanity, govern ourselves by a code of honor and humility, and seek a connection to the spiritual or transcendent dimensions of life. In a world that often feels chaotic and disconnected, the Zurkhaneh, the humble house of strength, stands as a powerful testament to the beauty and wisdom of integration. It is a living reminder that the most profound strength is the strength that comes from a whole and virtuous life.